So in this video, we are going to talk about rationalization, right? So you want to know how to rationalize certain items under set. Now, the key word here, or one thing you have to pay close attention to is that when exactly do you have to rationalize? So when, that is the most important thing. So if you say when can we apply what the rationalization method? This thing can only happen if you have a fraction, right? So what I mean by a fraction, somebody on top and there's another person at the down here. So if at the down, the guy at the down here is what in a radical form. So what I mean by a radical, it contains what a square root, right? That is the only keyword, or that is when you have to do the word rationalization. And I will explain the meaning of this rationalization in just a few seconds. So when to apply it is when you have a radical, a set or a square root with a number at the denominator at the down here, and that is when you have to use the word a rationalization. Now, how do you rationalize? That is the most important thing. This is what a very simple one, meaning that what I mean by the simple is that you have only one person at the denominator. Is that okay? So to rationalize this thing, this is a very straightforward. Now, the key word here, you may stay here to the end if you have a complicated, maybe two or more people at the down here with a radical. How do you do that? Right, so you may stay there to the end of the video so that you see all the tricks here. Now, okay, look at something. You have three people. What I mean by three people, you have 1 over root 2 plus or 1 over 2 as well as 1 over 2 root 2, right? So this is what we are having. Now, we want to add. If it is a normal addition, let's say all the denominators are just what a whole number. What I mean by a whole number, they don't have a square root sign, right? So you can apply that your least common multiple to solve that. But here we are having a radical at the denominator, so you have to use a different method, right? Okay, now the way to rationalize. So since this guy has what a square root at the denominator, you have to rationalize this one, right? So that is the way. So the way of rationalize is that you are going to have 1 over whatever we are having, 1 over 2, and then multiply by, right? So multiply by whatever is what at the denominator here. Is that okay? So whatever anything is that is at the denominator here. Of course, here we are having a root 2, so multiply by what 2 over what root 2, right? So this is the keyword. This is the keyword on how to rationalize if you have only one person what at the denominator. So you are going to multiply whatever you are having by what the one at the down here. So here, let's leave this thing for the meantime. So here we are having what that over that, and then in order not to change the nature of the question, so you are going to have plus what 1 over 2. Of course, here we are not going to rationalize because this is just what a straightforward. It doesn't have any radical what at the denominator, right? And then plus, what do you think here would be? Maybe I guess you should pause the video and then try the one here, and then come back and check the solution. So this is what I had, right? So you just have to multiply everything at the down here, everything, right? Everything at the down here by what the same thing, right? So meaning that we are just multiply by 1 because everything. If I say 2 over 2, that should just be 1, right? So root 2, 2 over 2 root 2 over what 2 root 2. That is the same as 1. So we are just multiply by 1, right? So, okay. Now, how do you multiply? The key of multiply here is you have to multiply the top by the top and then down by the down. So if I multiply 1 by what? Root 2, that should give me more root 2, right? So that should be what? Root 2 here. Is that okay? So 1 multiplied by anything is the same number. And then over what? So 2 multiplied by what? 2 here. Pay close attention here. The way of multiplying is that you multiply the number under the radical by what? The number under this radical, right? So 2 multiplied by 2, that should give us what? 4. So root 4. Is that okay? So root 4. And then plus what? Of course, this thing, we are not doing anything to this one. So you have what? 1 over 2. And then finally here to the same thing. So 1 multiplied by the top one, that should go 2 and then root 2, right? So look at something here. So here the multiplication here is that we have one guy outside here and then one guy inside of the radical. So 2 multiplied by the 2. So outside to outside. Is that okay? And then inside to inside. So outside to outside you give us what 4, right? So 2 multiplied by 2, that should be 4. And then root of 4, the one under will also give us what? Give us 4. Right? Okay, once again, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Okay, now let's proceed. We are not done because here root 2 is still what? A root 2, but down here root 4 will give us what? 2. The reason being is that this is what a perfect number, right? So this is what a perfect number. So taking a square root of this thing, any perfect number, you should have what a whole number. If you want to know this thing, maybe subscribe to the channel so that you can see more questions on this thing. If you have any issue, try and comment in the comment section below. Okay, now plus of 1 over 2, of course, and then here will give us a plus of 2 root 2, which we cannot do anything to that. And then here will give us 4 over what? This 4 will give us 2, so meaning that multiply by what? Multiply by 2. Yeah? Root 4 will give us what? Root 2. Okay, if you proceed at this point, you should have what? So if you expand or multiply everything here, you should have what? 8 at the denominator. So here, this guy can reduce, right? So 2 will go into itself 1 and 10, 2 will go here, what? 4. So you're having what? Root 2 over what? Over 4. Right? So this is what we are going to get. Now remember that down here we don't have any radical at the down again, right? So anything that you're having is just what? A whole number. Is that okay? So anything that you're having is just what? A whole number. So we can find the least common multiple of everything, which is of course that should be what? That should be 4, right? So the least common multiple of everything it should give us what? Should give us 4. Right, so you know how to do that. If let's say I have something like 1 over 2 plus or 1 over 3, you have to find the least common of this thing. Right, so the least common of this one, that should be a 6. So the least common of 2 and then 2 as well as 4, that should give us 4. You know how to solve this thing, right? Make sure that you give me your answer in the comment section. So this is what I had at the end, right? I had 2 plus 3 root 2, everything over 4, right? If you don't know how to do this, just comment that. There's nothing difficult here. So all that you are going to do here is that you take a 4 here, right? So 2 will go into the LCM, which is the least common multiple 2 times, and then 2 multiplied by the top one. That should be root 2, and then you proceed from that point, right? Okay, now let's look at the next one. In the situation where we have the denominator, not only what a single radical, right? A single set. Now here's a very quick one here. So look at something. You have 8 over what? Root 3 minus 1, right? So this is what you are having. Unlike the first one, you have only what? One single person at the denominator. But here we are having 2. So we want to rationalize this. Of course, you have to rationalize it. The reason being that at the denominator here, we are having what? The square root, right? Once you have a square root at the denominator, you have to rationalize. So how to rationalize this thing is the most important thing. Now, the way of rationalizing this thing is that you have to multiply everything. So you are going to have 8. This is what we are giving, 8 root 3, and then minus 1 multiply by, so multiply by anything at the down here, right? So anything at the denominator. So multiply by anything at the denominator, you are going to have what? Root 3. Pay close attention. So if you have 2 people at the down here, you have to change the sign in between. This is a law, right? This is a law. We all know that when 6 o'clock in the PM, right? So night comes, all right? So that is just a law by nature. Is that okay? And then 6 o'clock in the morning, maybe let's say somewhere there, and then the sun rises. That is just a law by the nature. So the law of rationalization here is saying that if you have 2 people at a down here and you want to rationalize it, you have to change the sign in between. So the sign here, if this is a subtraction, the opposite will be addition. Right, so if you are multiplying, you are going to multiply that by what? Plus what? Plus 1. You just change the sign in between, and then everything divided by what? The same thing, right? Root 3, and then what? Plus 1. Plus 1, right? So this is what how to rationalize the denominator with 2 people. Now the key here is to know how to multiply, right? You have to know multiply. If you have something like, let's say 2 multiplied by x and then plus 1, remember that this 2 here is going to multiply the x as well as the 2 have to multiply the 1. Is that okay? So the same thing is happening here. So the same thing is happening here is that a to multiply the root 3 as well as the a to multiply the 1 here. So what are we are going to do? So 8 multiplied by the root 3 will give us 8 root 3, and then 8 multiplied by 1, that will give us a positive 1. Right, so everything over the same procedure here. So this guy will multiply this one root 3, and then this same guy will multiply what? The 1. Now there's a way, if you want to know this thing, we call it squares of squares of difference of two squares. That says that don't let that thing scare you, because that's what I want. I don't want to bring it in here. So you have what a square and then plus what plus b square. Let's say the first person square and then plus or the second person square. That should give us so a plus b and then what a minus what minus what minus b, right? So this is just a definition, right? You have this thing on our playlist, so you may check the playlist on set to know everything about. But here in this video, I'm not going to use this thing. So once we get to the more complicated question here, we can easily apply this method. But here, what we are going to do, we are going to do everything one by one. So meaning that this root 3 will multiply what the root 3. So you have a 3 multiplied by what the root 3, that is the first one, and the same 3 root 3 here we are just going to multiply what the positive one, that should give us plus what plus root 3, and that is the first part, right? So you have the second part is that the negative 1 is going to multiply what the root 3, so you have a negative root 3, right? So negative root 3. Now you have the negative root 1 multiplied by what the positive 1, that should be a negative 1. Is that okay? So that should be negative. Now, so the top, you are not doing anything to the top. So you have a to root 3. And then down here, you can do the simplification, right? So here you can see that this guy here will cancel that, because this is a positive and a negative. So root 3 minus root 3, that should be equal to 0. Okay, so here we are left with root 3 multiplied by root 3. So that should give us a root 9. Remember how to multiply, right? So, and then minus, this guy goes away. So they goes away. So minus 1. Okay, now the answer you can still simplify, because remember I said a perfect number here, so you have a 8 or root 3 and everything. The square root of 9, that should give us a 3 minus 1. So the answer here should be what 8 or root 3, everything divided by 2. This is what we are having, right? So this is what we are having. Now, what will happen if you have a question like this? Now this is another one, right? So you have a 3 root 2, root 2 minus 2, and then root 3, everything divided by 3 root 2, and then plus 2 root 3, right? So here, of course, you have to rationalize. So you have to rationalize this thing, right? So here's another one. They say that you should simplify. Look at something. So you're having 1 plus root 18 at the denominator here. Here, do you have to rationalize or you don't have to rationalize? That's the keyword. If yes, make sure that you comment in the comment. If you want to see the solutions to these two questions, so let me know in the comment section. But here, the key word here is you have to simplify first, right? So you have to simplify. You have to simplify. You have to make everything into a simple form before you arrive at the rational point, right? So everything you have to know under rationalization will be embedded in our next video. So don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Let me know in the comment section if you want to know the solution to these two questions.